He would love it. Hey, we're going to do Josh McCall. He's going to bring the house down. Now, this is the guy that's going to Washington to help us get rid of the orange monster. Josh has been traveling the 9th District for 2 years. Most of you know him, but his wife is going to introduce him. If I introduce Richard, that would be hell to pay. But I think they're young and they have a little different relationship. She is a very renowned attorney in Gainesville. They'll be a power couple when Josh gets in D.C. Anyway, Jennifer McCall will introduce Josh.
So in January, February of 2017, Josh came home one day. He said, I'm going to join the candidate recruitment team. I'm going out there and I'm going to find the best possible candidate to run against Doug Collins. A couple meetings later, he said, I guess it's going to be me. He said that he was just a teacher. Well, first of all, we all know that just a teacher doesn't do justice to the incredible job that teachers have. Second, although I may be biased, Josh is just the best person that there is. He's been traveling this district, all 20 counties, all those mountainous roads, and our poor middle daughter gets car sick. So it's been a lot of sacrifice for our family, but it's been just the best thing to get out there and meet all of you people, and for me to see all of you and your faces when you discover this hidden treasure of a man that I've had the pleasure of knowing. He is just as kind and intelligent and hardworking as he appears to be. I have volunteered with him with the homeless. I have gone with him to really fancy charity events, and he is the same person wherever he goes. We were at a protest where there were counter-protesters across the street, and Josh walked over with water bottles. There was a man dancing with a full-size cutout of Donald Trump, and Josh goes over there and has a civil conversation with him because Josh can talk to anyone. Josh can win anybody over because he is just as kind and sincere as they come. So it is my honor to introduce to you the man that I love and who I know all of you love too, Josh McCall.
Thank you, honey. Great to see all of you here today. I feel somewhat out of place at a winery. I'm from Martin, Georgia. It's between Toccoa and Livonia. And we have one caution light, a whole lot of cows and chicken houses, some of which I worked in when I was young. And so, in some sense, I feel a little bit out of place being in a fancy winery. On the other hand, my family, like many of those in this area, have a long history with fermentation. My father had the ill luck of getting caught bootlegging with his father when he was 15. And see, my father and his father were in distribution, we'll call it, and shipping. And my great uncle, who I found out long after, his name is Ralph, but I always knew him as Punch. Punch never got caught because Punch was the one who made the punch. And my father and his father were the one who dealt it. So in another sense, I feel like I'm coming back home again. But it is a testament to our country that there are so many great things about it. One great thing about it is that a little boy who grew up in Martin, Georgia, I was born in a trailer. My father had to drive 100 miles away to get good employment with good insurance. My mother worked very hard at a textile factory, Milliken Humphrey, on Currahee Mountain. And she worked so hard just to get a first shift job, and she was very happy. She felt like she was walking in high cotton because she got to go to work at the same time every day. So in one sense, our country is great because a boy who grew up in that setting can be standing before you today to represent the 9th District in the U.S. House of Representatives. There are many things that are wrong with our country, though. There are many things that are unjust. And we've tried a few solutions over the past few years. I think since the 80s, we've tried the let's let the billionaires handle it solution. And we've seen how that's worked out. Wages have gone down, and justice has become out of control. How in the world can we confront the very deep, radical problems in our society? There is an old rule that I would like to bring to Congress. On this rule, I base my entire platform. Love your neighbor as yourself. It sounds so simple, but it's so elegant and it's so radical. If I want health care for my family, if I want health care for myself, then if I am going to love my neighbor as myself, I must want health care for my neighbor. Nobody in the wealthiest country in the history of the world should die because they're poor, and nobody should be going poor because they're dying. I, like many other former college students, I'm still paying off a mountain of debt that it feels like I will never crawl out from under. This is money I paid for my education. I believe that we need to offer something to the future better than what we offer to the past. We should offer tuition-free college to every young person in this country. Because the education of future citizens, the people who will be funding your Social Security and my Social Security and our retirement, that is something we owe to them. That is not something they should be owing a bank for the rest of their lives. The tax cut that the Republicans just handed to billionaires was $1.5 trillion. That tax cut gave away more money than it would cost to forgive every single student debt in this country from the federal government. That would be a real tax break for the middle class. That money would go into local economies to pay workers right here in Georgia. That's one thing we need to offer, because if I want education for myself, I must also want it for my neighbor if I'm going to love my neighbor as myself. And finally, we have got to do something about our definition of justice. I believe that justice is most often found in mercy. I've talked to so many people who have been hooked on opioids. This epidemic has touched my own family. I've talked to people who have been in prison, people who are struggling with poverty. And I can tell you right now that this law and order president we just elected has brought nothing but lawlessness and chaos. Because those people who are struggling to make ends meet, who are struggling and barely paying for shelter and food and clothing for themselves and their family, have seen no relief. But the people who were already well off, Jeff Bezos, he is paying fewer taxes than he ever did before, and his workers are working longer hours than they ever did before. We have got to make a more fair society. If I want a job for myself that pays enough to support my family, I must also want that for my neighbor. If you ask someone to come in and work for you a full-time day, you must also return that favor, that deal, with a fair wage, a living wage. We've had a contest over the past few years. Who loves our country? I've been told I don't love my country because I support justice for black lives. You cannot love your country unless you love your neighbor, because your neighbor is America. Your neighbor holds the American spirit in his body and in her body and in their hearts. And I cannot say that I'm patriotic until I fight with every fiber of my being so that a young black man or a young person of color can walk down the street as safely as I can as a white man in America. One of the greatest political tools wielded against us in this era has been cynicism. It's what put Trump into power. It's what keeps us fighting with our family members. But I will tell you how to fix this. The Republican Party controls the airwaves around here. They control Fox News. It is now state media. Sometimes I think Moscow is watching Fox News and they're saying, maybe be more subtle. Try to put a wrinkle in there sometimes. I think it's too obvious. They control all those things, but you know what they don't control? You and I still have the power to go to our neighbors, to look them in the eyes. Your neighbor with diabetes, who has to pay $300 for the insulin you can get in Canada for $28. You can still go to your neighbor. You don't ever have to mention the T word to talk to them about health care, because that's real politics. Trump's politics are as shallow as his orange skin, which, by the way, is one of the thinnest skins out there. But the politics of loving your neighbor is deep. It is sustainable. Let's make the Democratic Party make the fifth rail of politics in America. The Republicans are already scared of messing with Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security, which are Democratic programs. Medicare for all would be the new political reality, and every Republican after that would know not to mess with it. Don't ever let people tell you that you still don't have that relationship with your neighbor. That abyss that seems to have opened up between us and our neighbors since Trump has been elected is a figment of our imagination, and it was made by the Republican Party to think that we can no longer talk with people who are different from us. But it is not there. It's filled with noise, and the way to cut through that noise is to go and speak to your neighbors about real needs that face them every day in this country. Please support my campaign on social media. My fabulous social media director and communications director, Jennifer LaRose, who has been a genius, is there. She coordinates all of the communication that goes through social media. Like us on Facebook, share my tweets. Also, Tiffany Potter, my campaign manager, is back there. She is who is taking the donations tonight. Y'all, Obama was right. This is not a rock concert. I'm not a movie star, and I don't want to be. I want to represent you. And so give enough to me so that you can help me, but also save some to give to all of the candidates that are here today. All of us have got to pitch in just a little bit. We can move mountains if we have just a little bit of faith in one another. Y'all have a great day, and God bless all of you.
Y'all, hey y'all, that's Josh McCall. Hey y'all, we from McCall. That sort of rhymes, but I think I'll bone. Listen to this.